Thank you very much. My pleasure to be here, and I'm very thankful for the invitation to see you and to speak to you. I would start with some quoting of Mikhail Gorbachev. He was asked once by Margaret Thatcher, what about transition in Russia? And he responded that if to speak in one word, then it is good. If to speak in many words, no good. I think it's a detailed explanation of what's going on, because it's a very big number of risks, and it is absolutely not clear where the transition is heading. That is the reality. But this reality is rooted, as it was mentioned just now, not only in historical roots in Russia and historical cycles and different historical explanation, but from my point of view, it is much more rooted in the way how the reforms were realized in Russia. And I want to present you, especially prepared for that forum and for you, some lessons from Russian reform, because it's a very big reform. Some lessons which must be very useful from my point of view, for all other kind of reforms, almost in any country, which we should understand in terms of risks of transition. The first lesson is that the main goal of the reform is not the budget constraints, not the free prices, and so on, but the main goal of the reform is the mentality of the society. This is the goal. Because you should influence on this mentality in order to reach reforms which are deep, irreversible, and effective. But for that, you need to use the instruments like incentives, values, motives, and finally, to find the way to create the institutions. Mentality is the first goal. It's the lesson number one. The lesson number two, it is necessary to avoid by all means during the reforms splitting the society. The reformers, by nature, must be the integrators, not those who are making dividing lines in the society. Otherwise, as you know, the reforms would be reversible. No doubt about that. It would be the revenge. So you must be the integrator. The third lesson, which we were suffering from our life, is that there is no prepared decisions how to make the reforms, how to make the reforms. Not abroad, not in our history, anywhere. So it's really, really necessary to create and to think and to try to realize new approaches, because you can't find the already prepared models or recipes how to make the reforms. You can find the prepared recipes about the goals of reform, but it is not possible to find the recipes how to make them. The fourth lesson is, and it is asked in the questions, about the speed. Our lesson, our outcome from our reformers, that speed is not important. The deepness and irreversibility, this is what's important. The hysteria about speed can't be justified because you are trying to make reforms very speedy, and then you would have a setback. So it's a different thing. You must always have a criteria of different type. How deep and how irreversible they are. It's very important, and this is the fifth lesson, that reforms, real reforms, it's not a military battle. It's more like a peace negotiations with the society on the subject. If you are going to attack the society, you would never have the reforms which would be helpful. And the last but not least, reform is kind of an art. Not everybody can do that. To be a reformer means to be an artist. That's our conclusion. We have no, until today, that kind of artists. And here I come to the last question, what about the foreign aid and foreign support for the reform? Definitely there is a real, very important influence can be from abroad, but only in one way, as an example. Don't interfere, simply show the example that you know how to do this and that you are better, that you are less lying, that you have less corruption, that you have more dignity to the people, that your people are more happy, and that's it. This is the main help in the reform. Thank you very much.